Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We're thrilled to death that you are listening to our show today. We are probably minus Jared, unless he dips in. Who knows? That could be a surprise.
It has happened.
You never know. But in his stead, making a return after the mighty Marshall 101, we've got Chris Connor in the corner here.
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be back.
Welcome back, Chris. We've been exchanging a bunch of pedals and stuff, and you've been, just kind of like, hey, or play with this stuff.
Yeah, man.
And
all good.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about the Fuzzmeister tonight. And Fuzzmeister, who are you?
Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
Johnny Wator from Daredevil Pedals in Chicago. How's it going?
Right on. Johnny, this is, I believe, your third appearance.
No, really?
5 at least.
3?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 3.
Yeah, I think this is number 3.
It might even be 4.
Should I check?
You should check. But anyways, welcome back again. And we didn't say, oh, geez, what are we going to do? Well, call Johnny. He'll talk.
you had a cancellation. I get it. You
were on the list and I just moved you up. So,
yeah, I'm like the Ed McMahon of the...
Yes, exactly. But I was inundated with the hype ads out of nowhere, and I was like, "Whoa, that's kind of weird," because you released that a little while ago, and
yeah, that was
I was prompted to do that. But we'll get into that. We'll get into all this. You got a lot going on, and we just want to touch base with that.
Yeah,
and
so watch, everybody's going to start yelling now that I started.
It's okay. We like kids and we like families and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. We're just, it's
real life, man. I get it. We appreciate you taking the time out of, or beyond your actual workday to do this. So, anyways, without further ado, we are going to just touch on a few things real quick, a couple of announcements. Specifically, I mentioned the Marshall 101, and I couldn't believe the feedback we got on that. That was so good, and honestly, I was a little bit worried because it went 2 full episodes, and I probably cut out a good almost 20 minutes of just crazy nonsense because we had been talking for almost 3.5 hours. And I know that people like podcasts, but I don't know what the threshold is. But anyways, I just wanted to share some things back. I got a whole bunch. I can't read them all, but here's what I got. From Bob Crouch, I enjoyed both parts. It was quite the fellowship of the knobs you have going there. I was really hoping for a third part where you and Tony take a plexi up Mount Doom beneath... the distracted eye of Sauron. All right,
let's do it.
Yeah,
I'm up for that.
And then this is from Steve Keys. He said, just wanted to let you know how much I enjoyed the Marshall 101 episodes. I currently own 2 Marshall amps, a JC 2000 DSL 401, which was his first tube amp, and a Marshall Lead 15 with a 110 cab, his first amp. I was seriously interested in eventually buying a JCM 900. However, after hearing you fine gents discuss the good and the bad, I have some things to look out for. Honestly, after watching numerous repair videos from Psionic Audio regarding Marshall amps, I might just save my pennies and look into going with one of the bad cats. Okay, they look and sound so cool. Anyways, who wants to buy a JCM 2000? So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Which motherboard does that one have on it?
I'm not even sure. Yeah. And then Anthony Gemolero, who I'm frequently talking with on the internets, he says, listening to the latest episode on my way home today, I've got a 20-watt JCM 800 Studio going into a mid-80s 410 full of greenbacks on top of a 212 full of creambacks. Oof. There's got to be some kind of word for that. Then I have an early 90s Bluesbreaker reissue that I love. Still can't get the tremolo to work, but that's what pedals are for, right? And then there's the lead 12 and the bass 12 on top. Those are just decoration. I rarely turn those on. Okay, right on. I got a whole bunch more, and who knows, maybe in a future episode I'll read some more because it was really great getting that feedback. And it's encouraging to know that. And actually, we were just out at the guitar show. We had a pedal show.
And guitars.
And some guitars locally. And I couldn't believe how many people were talking about the Marshall show.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones, like, I guess we waited for the right time to do that. I know, Johnny, you're a connoisseur of the Marshall.
Well, I would hope that everybody kind of has like one, right?
Yeah.
You know, and actually I
mean, you're a trainer guy at heart, right?
I only have one Marshall.
Uh-huh.
And then, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 Marshall cabs. But, you know, I got one, like, way back in the day when I only had, you know, like, one amp.
Yeah.
And that was my Marshall. That was my amp. That's all I had. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to get one, I'll just get a really good one. And then that's it, because I'm never going to have more amps, right? This is when I was like, you know, 23, 24. So I got a 76 small box, like 4-plug, and I took it to practice and it just blew up. Like, it immediately died.
Oh,
right?
no.
Took it back. You know, I was like, what the hell? So he's like, all right, we'll just pick a different Marshall, right? So I got a 77 JMP with the master volume, which, you know, was better at the time anyways. And I think that's
a great year for those.
Yeah. So 100 water, and I got it for $900. So
that's killer.
And that's been my pretty much my main Marshall, my only Marshall since, I don't know, 2005. But that's this is the Marshall. This is a whole other story. I don't know how long you want to fucking go on this Marshall
Go ahead.
situation.
We're doing. This is episode 3.
So this is my drummer worked at a club in Chicago, and we played a show, and we left our gear after the show, and then there was a show the next day, and he said, hey man, the band tonight is a fly-in and they need backline. Would you mind if they use your amp as a backline? We'll kick you some money or whatever. I'm like, all right, well, you know, that's cool. What's the band? And they're just like, well, it's Headcat with Lemmy, you know? And so I was like, well, that's cool. The guitar player can use my Marshall. I don't care. And then I went to the show, and there's Lemmy playing, you know, my rig with his bass. And I thought, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And then I thought, oh my God, he's going to blow out all my 30-watt speakers in my cab, right? And then, you know, the next day after that, I went and picked it up. And, you know, I take it out of the head case, every knob on 10.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's A, the coolest thing ever, and B, I don't even care if my cab is just completely destroyed. But so that was it. So that's the same amp that I have. And I'm like, well, I can never, ever sell this. And it was just kind of a sign from the rock gods that this is my amp, and I'm just going to have it be, you know, the chosen one, I guess.
How were your speakers? Just curious.
They were good, you know. I kind of baffled, but it was like I was hoping that everything was on 10, you know. So then when I noticed that it was, I think one knob was a little bit lower, which was like, so not what you would think would be turned down, but something was turned down. But everything else was on 10, and I'm like, well, I would expect that, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's like whatever. So anyways, that's the story of my Lemmy Marshall. So I feel like it's been kind of blessed and all that.
Christened.
So, yeah, right. So if people ask, they're like, oh, can we borrow it? I'm like, no, this is an unborrowable, unusable. You know, I had this locked away in a secret location, and you know, that's that. So
that's
whatever.
That's a cool story. I appreciate you sharing it.
I mean, it's like whoever has that kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Now, Todd,
Yeah.
for the avid listeners out there,
Yes.
this is indeed Johnny's 3rd time on the show.
Okay.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Believe it or not, his first appearance was episode number 82. 82.
Man,
82.
Johnny, I just want to say thank you because that's early on for a fellow like you to go like, yeah, I'm going to dedicate an hour of my time to talk to some yahoos who I've never even heard of before. I really appreciate that.
And that was in July of 2021.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No.
Well, that's when that's when it was posted.
That's it. No. Oh, that might be when it got reset. There was a reset.
Was there a reset on that? Yeah, I was going to say
that was
because
like 18.
Okay, that makes more sense because
Maybe
his
even
second
17.
His second appearance was number 285.
Right. That was last.
That was September of 22.
A year later.
Yeah, I was going to say, damn,
Right.
we had over 100 episodes in a year.
Right.
Now things are much more clear.
Yes.
Yeah,
Indeed.
so 82, yeah, that would have been about 1918. It would have been about
I think
1918,
2000.
Back
right
in the
after
90s.
the war.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, if you had more comments on the Marshall episode, if you've finally gotten through it after 3 weeks, we would love to hear from you. Honestly, that opened up a lot of ears and eyes, and I'm grateful for everybody listening. And we welcome. What else do you want us to do 101s on? We've done a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, but give us your ideas. All right, let's get on with what's going on in the music world this week. We're going to check in with Tanya first, and then Johnny.
Well, in keeping with all things Marshall, I was perusing the latest issue of Vintage Guitar magazine, the one with Robbie Robertson on the front, and I found an interesting article. They did a profile of Roy Orbison's believe it or not, JTM 45. And apparently, this was given to Roy when he was over in England. Jim Marshall actually gave him this amplifier. But apparently, it is one of the earliest JTM 45s based on the characteristics and some of the features of it. And in traditional Marshall wisdom, the model number is 1961, and that makes it a what is that one? That is a tremolo version. Now, the 1962 was essentially the same amp, but that was the super lead, or the lead and the bass. You remember what that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the difference. I was thinking maybe it was a wattage thing, but
no. And what's interesting about this one, of course, the 1961 and the 1962 have nothing to do with the year that it was made. It was probably made, this one, late 64, because December of 64 is when these 212 combos start to appear. And but based on the chassis, and it also has two Celestion Alnico speakers instead of greenbacks. So most of the features of this point towards that it was just an older model, which kind of makes sense, probably why Jim Marshall said, hey, Roy, why don't you take this one?
yeah.
Now, obviously, that was not the Roy Orbison sound, because he sold it to his guitar player, who sold it to another guitar player, and it made its rounds. And but it's an interesting article, and just to see, they've got some great photos and things in it. Even the Celestion speakers, they have a Marshall sticker on the back of it, but the Celestion sticker is starting to bleed through on the backside. So it's kind of cool. But
Kind of like you.
What's that?
What?
No? What? What? I must have missed that time.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
Well, luddy-dotty.
that was part of my musical world this week. I enjoy many of these little feature articles that our friends at Vintage Guitar put out there.
Very good, very good. Johnny, what's going on in your music world this week? If there's anything beyond, the Daredevil stuff.
We're actually playing a show on Wednesday, so I got to get ready for that, because it's our first show with a new drummer.
Ooh.
So that's kind of what we've been doing the last 2 weeks, is like scrambling to get that tight. And it's a Wednesday show, which is weird, but it's a band that's on tour that we're playing with. So
What's the band?
they're called the Corettes from Denmark. It's like a 2-piece 60s fuzz garage thing. And I guess they do really well in Europe, and then they're doing their big U.S. tour. So their agency wanted us to open for them, because we played with other bands that they manage and stuff. So
Cool. I'm gonna have to check them out.
It's like, Nuggets, white stripesy, but definitely Euro 60s garage kind of trashy stuff.
Okay, cool.
Very cool.
And for those that don't know, you're in the Evictions, which is a pretty dang cool group. You want to just do a little blurb about that?
Power trio, fuzz rock, kind of MC5 punk rock type guitar solo-y thing.
It's so hard to put a description on.
Yeah,
music. I think yours is not unlike ours to a certain degree. Yours is probably a little bit more fuzzed out.
It's like
heavy attack.
It's like MC5, Who, punk rock,
right?
Fu Manchu.
Yeah, there you go.
Somewhere in the middle, it's like really heavy, massive guitar, but overplaying, and the bass player is playing a gazillion notes and fast, and then Henry Rollins vocals kind of thing. So,
right on.
With some cheap tricks sprinkled on top.
Right on.
Well,
and yeah, you gotta have that.
What's not to like, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you should change your name to the WC3.
WC3.
The Wash Closet 3.
No, the Windy City 3.
Windy City 3.
You can use that one, no extra charge.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Gigs are good.
Gigs are good. Yeah.
Chris, how about yourself?
I've been collecting records again, and this time it's the Blue Note. They've been doing these all analog presses of some of their old releases, and so I've been doing the Grant Green. I've just been buying up Grant Green records this week. I've been going crazy. Once I heard that they were doing that, and I've always kind of looked for Grant Green records and CDs, so now there's like 4. I found 4 or 5 around Columbus.
Oh.
And then I've been buying up like Art Blakey ones and Horace Silver and a couple of them. So I bought 6 or 7, and Blue Train, John Coltrane. They sound really, really good. Super cool that they're doing that. So that was my musical week.
Yeah, they must have been doing that, planning that for quite a long time, because that's the kind of stuff, to your point, is like once they're re-releasing that stuff.
It's killer too. And Grant Green, it's ES 330, great phrasing, really cool playing. He does a lot of these repetitive riffs in his soloing. It's super cool. He's sort of like
just like me.
Yeah, well. Anyway, check him out. Check him out if you haven't heard him.
I'm just like Grant Green.
Yeah.
3 notes. Here we go. Yeah.
What about you, Todd? What's happening in your?
Well,
musical world?
as I mentioned, we had that. It was pints and piston. No, pints and pedals. But it was at Random Precision Brewing. Yeah. So that's a lot of words. Anyways, we had a whole bunch of mostly Ohio builders. We had some people from Michigan show up, and it was a good time, and it keeps getting a little bit bigger. I don't know that it was to the degree that I think recently, Johnny, that right there, you guys just had a big pedal show out there, right?
Chicago Music Exchange had one, and it's been the first time for 5 or might even be 6 years. They had one way back that was kind of smaller, and then this one was like 2 or 3 times as many brands. So they definitely tried to bulk it up, and it went really good. I think if they did it like annually, consistently, that it would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, much bigger. We actually got to meet you in person after being on the show at the Alchemy Audio music swap meet thing show that they put on. That was sort of like a bit of a music gear free for all, mostly guitar stuff, but I think that was at a place. It's like a music lockout, like called the Fort or something. Am I right?
It's Fort Knox Studios. It's a big band building. Yeah,
that was really cool. I mean, I would love for us to be able to get to that status here, and pull from surrounding states. We are kind of the belly button of the the North Midwest. In the sense that so many things are attached to Ohio. So I think we could do it.
Yeah.
anyhow, so that was there where we were there. It was cool. Met a lot of really neat people, and I had a little pedal board that I put together of recent guests and some oddities that people might not really have the chance to experience, and did a little ditto looper. So everybody's sitting around looking for the guitar. I'm like, it's playing. Just put the headphones on and start clicking buttons, and they're like, hey, this is great. So. Yeah, good time. So, anyhow, that was, and you know what?
What?
What I used to put together that board, Tony?
It was beautifully done.
Thank you.
Did you use those Tour Gear Design patch cables?
I absolutely did.
I thought they looked familiar.
They should look familiar. We both have them, and we talk about them all the time. And I grabbed a handful, and I got this board stitched up super quick. And it was a good thing I had all the random sizes because I needed that.
Oh, yeah. You had, 5 or 6 different pedals?
Yes.
Plus the looper?
Yes. Yeah, 5 pedals.
Tell
plus
them about the looper. That was kind of cool what you did.
Well, I just did. I put a loop in it, and I hit
So people didn't have to plug a guitar in.
Right.
They could just listen to the various pedals.
I did have it going through the amped one, the Black Star amped one.
Yeah.
And that's where the headphone jack was plugged in. So it was this cool little rig. It was great.
I liked it. I liked the fact that you didn't have to plug in a guitar.
Right. But I did get to plug in the Tour Gear Design patch cables, Tony.
I like that.
Yeah. So, hey, if you are thinking about putting together a little board or a big board or a medium board or multiple boards.
Yeah.
You need to check these out. Go to tourgeardesigns.com, load up your basket, and then put in the guitar knobs. You're going to save 10%.
That's in a coupon code.
That's in a coupon code. You're going to save 10%.
All
on
lowercase, all one word.
And they're going to ship them out to you lickety-split, and you're going to love them for it.
Yeah, and they come all the way from Canada.
They do.
But they come really, really fast.
Yes.
And they're really good.
I said all that, too. But thank you for reiterating.
I like to emphasize.
You do. You emphasize as many ways, yes. Anyway, so thank you to Tour Gear Designs for sponsoring our 4 on the Floor.
Let me get a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor. All right, Johnny from Daredevil Pedals, give us your third 4 on the floor.
All right, how much backstory can I give on each on each pedal here?
Go. It's your time.
Okay. Since last time, it has changed, but I'll just start with phaser because that's first in my chain, and I know I always have a phaser on there. But I went on a pretty massive phaser bender like early spring, and I ended up getting a bunch more and getting like way down the wormhole in that. So now the phase that I'm using is the MXR script logo with the LED. I talked to Trips, and he said that he designed that one, and that one is closest to the very original Phase 90 when it first came out.
Oh, really?
Because, there's like script logo and the script logo with the LED and the block logo, and there's these reissues and, there's a bunch of different kind of vintage reissues and all that stuff, and hand-wired ones, and all that, whatever. So I kind of went down that wormhole, and then, I used the Whirlwind one, which is supposedly the other guy that had a hand in MXR, and that's supposed to be the exact as, the first original Phase 92. So that was the one I used to use, but now I have the script logo with the LED, and it's amazing. So, but I also got a bunch of other ones and yada yada. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
So,
now you mentioned a phaser bender. Is that a pedal that we're going to be looking towards?
A phaser bender?
Yeah, it's like a script with a tone bender mashed up into it.
That's that a Fender?
Maybe.
With a PH?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yes. We're just, sit back. We'll do all the work for you, Johnny.
Yeah. No, that's good.
That was the most sincere acknowledgement I've ever heard.
Oh, dear God. When have I got myself into
really
a third
good, time? Cool. What's number 2?
Number 2, and this one changed too, but I usually have like kind of a boost or a Rangemaster boost or something in that ballpark, right? But since then, also in like this past spring, I got the Sugar Boost from Creepy Fingers, which is Brad from Fu Manchu out in California. And it's, you know, his take on like kind of the Rangemaster thing, but it's germanium with this, and I can't remember the name, but he's got this stash of these old germanium transistors that sound really kind of different than what most people, you know, most people try to put like Mullards in there and stick it pretty close to the originals and stuff. And this is like kind of more how I do things, which is just like dirtier and a little bit crazier sounding, but really kind of unique. So that's been on my board since whenever I got that back in like early springtime.
Do you use that with drive or without drive? I mean, in front of or in in combination with the drive, or is that something you do on its own?
The way I'm using it now is I'm just using it by itself for like rhythm tone, and then I hit the drive-by for like solo boost and stuff, but that's after it. So it's it just stacks better that way, and you know, for whatever reason. So that's how I've been using that, because you know the trainers are kind of a little dirty, but mostly just big, loud, clean kind of thing.
Right.
So I always have something on. I'm never going like just amp. You know, that's about as close as I get to going with just amp, is I haven't like the Rangemaster boost on there, but his is pretty dirty and I keep it really like almost dined out. So
nice.
It gets really gritty, gnarly. Like you would think it's a distortion pedal almost.
Very cool.
So that's been on there too.
Is that the one with the like the van style graphics on it, or is it the brown one?
It's white with like super 70s looking kind of like tricolor.
Yeah, so like the van, like side of the
it would look
stuff.
like the hood of some 70s AMC car or something. You know?
It's super cool.
Yeah, and his stuff, like those enclosures are killer. His builds are killer. Everything's, you know, his stuff's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
I think that's to get him on the show.
Dude, you should. You should definitely get him on there.
I'm gonna do it. Watch me. I'm gonna do it.
Tell him I said to get on there.
I will.
Right after this.
I will.
Just call him up. I'll give you all his personal info. How about that?
I would love that.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? What? Who the what?
And you know what? He's got so much cool backstory on gear because of just being in California in the 80s and 90s. He's owned some incredible stuff. You know, those stories were like, well, then I got this for $200 and now it's worth, you know, like $6,000. Like those kind of stories, you know?
Yeah.
Which I love that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's just a cool guy and he's one of my favorite bands. So there you go.
Yeah. Can't argue with any of that.
Yeah. So anyways, 4 on the Floor, that's my first 2 in my signal chain. And then this is where it gets weird because it's like, you know, with me, obviously most of what I use is like my own stuff, which we're not supposed to talk, you know, supposed to exclude my own pedals, correct?
Yeah.
So that kind of like almost wipes out the rest of my board. But I did want to throw in there though that, and I think last time I mentioned Super Fuzz, because if I had to kind of avoid using my own fuzzes, I would probably definitely go with like, you know, an old Watkins or a Super Fuzz, but I don't own one because they're like $1,000 now.
Right.
And then also another pedal from Brad is that he built me his Super Fuzz, which is a clone of Scott Hill's Super Fuzz in the band, which is like basically every Fu Manchu record. Like he's just got one of those that's like that's it, you know. It's like there's good ones and bad ones kind of thing. So
what is that one called?
The Hari Kiri Fuzz. Hari Kiri here, whatever it is. And that one is, I mean, I probably have like 4 Super Fuzz clones plus a couple that I built, and that one is like hands down, you know, it's got the sweet spot. So that one I use, but not all the time for like eviction stuff. But that would definitely be like a go-to. But then there's like a whole bunch that kind of fall in that category of like, if I had to swap something out, that Hawaiian pizza from Caroline is awesome.
Oh yeah.
that one's really cool. And what was another thing? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank here because I've been kind of like adding to the pile, you know. I just got the that MXR hybrid fuzz that came out like maybe a month and a half ago. It's like a hybrid. It's like fuzz face, but hybrid germanium silicone. That drips in.
Yeah.
It's got a real psychedelic kind of artwork on the front.
Yeah, it's it almost looks like a Beatronics, like at first glance.
Something like that. Yeah. The artist is from South Africa. That one is really well done. I've been playing that a lot on like my home, like playing on the couch kind of rig. That thing is really good.
So is it? You tell me about this really quick. Is it an actual blend of the two, or do you have the choice to like dip into one or the other?
No, it's one germanium, one silicone.
Okay.
You know, pretty
jammed together.
Yeah. It's kind of tweaked out, but that's how most.
It's like a fuzz sandwich, like a fuzzwich.
Yeah, and I don't think it's
straight. Call it.
Yeah.
We're fixing everybody's problems here. That's what we do.
Right. You need to get this all like, you have to get this all notarized just for your own,
right?
Public domain.
We said it first.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like I'm trying to think what else too, because I've had one of the earthquake or park fuzzes for like a year. That's killer. I'm just trying to think what else I would actually like stick in there that would fit what I do, you know. But those are in there.
Well, let me ask you about the park fuzz. I mean, knowing that you're going into clean amp, and that park fuzz is loosely based off of like, you know, it's sort of the amp in the box kind of thing, right?
Well, that's pretty close to the original. Like he sourced an assload of germanium from somewhere. But that's supposedly like pretty darn close to the original one.
Right.
That was in like the giant box.
Right.
So those turned out good because, you know, most people don't realize this, but it's real easy to just make a really crappy sounding germanium fuzz. There's way more to it than just, I bought these germanium transistors. I'm going to put them in the schematic, you know, exactly like the vintage one.
Right.
It does not by any means work like that. And there's people that are selling really, really expensive, you know, newly made fuzzes with these super rare, you know, black glass and all this stuff. And it's like, man, there's more to it than just slapping them in there and thinking it's worth its weight in gold, you know?
Right.
And the guys that do it are the guys, you know, like David Main and stuff, who are like, holy crap, that's, you know, now I understand why this pedal is, you know, whatever, $600.
Yeah.
But, you know, coming from someone that's been there and done that and thought, oh, I can just do this and it'll sound amazing. And no.
Yeah.
Not at all. So the people that do it, definitely got to give them kudos because it's kind of a secret wizard Zen art form thing, you know?
That's really good advice because I think, especially with a lot of more beginning guitarists, like when they get enough knowledge and then you try to go like, well, now I got a little bit of that knowledge and I want to either be better or I'm going to do the things that make me feel like I am better, like buying more expensive gear or rarer things. You know, it's sort of like the actor who's an actor because they're going on a lot of auditions, but they're not acting quite yet. You know, and please, people understand, I'm not throwing shade on beginners. I'm just saying I've been there and I fell into that trap. And I think a lot of people have. And now in the golden age of magic gear, it can be really easy to do exactly what Johnny's talking about, which is like drop a bunch of cash on something because it happens to be a pedal that has got a lot of buzz, a lot of hype about it, and it's got all the rare magic in it. But to his point, unless you know how to harness that and build it masterfully, it's maybe not going to have what you think it is.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of great gear, but you know, that's, if it was that easy to just buy something and sound amazing, then we wouldn't be doing this for, you know, gear swapping for 20 and 30 years, trying to find, you know,
Right.
amazing tone and whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the cool part of it, I guess. But, you know, yeah, like you said, this is the era of pedals right now where it's just, there's so much, and there's so many people trying to like get their foot in the door and crank these things out. That, yeah, I could easily see where someone that's like just getting into pedals could just be overwhelmed and think, well, this says this, and I read that this is good, or what, you know, it's like, it's kind of an overwhelming amount of stuff to process. Right. So
Yeah.
whatever, but you know, out of that, people that stick it out and the brands that are actually really good and will do well and everything, at least hopefully I hope that that's the way things work out, unlike, you know, pop music or
Right.
you know, it's like sometimes you don't have to be good to be really successful, but usually in pedals you got to be pretty rock solid, you know, like you mentioned Beatronics and stuff, you know, those aren't cheap, but man, those are some really cool looking effects.
Yeah.
You know, like that stuff's legit, and I still see new ones coming out. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but I want to sit down with it and just take it in, because you know there's so much like effort and care put into each of those, and just in the presentation, and you know, it makes you think that, you know, definitely there's something cool going on in here if someone's gonna really go after it that much. So
I could not agree more. Well, that's 9 on the floor from Johnny. No, it's all good. It's all good. We're here to talk about
and then
that
there's
stuff.
we didn't fit. That was technically the third.
Oh, that was 3. Okay, yes. What's your
Okay.
fourth?
Then the fourth position that I have to fill, speaking in generalizations, I usually have like a flanger, you know, something else, modulating-ish, usually a flange, but I just got Dry Bell Vibe, which I heard was really cool from a lot of people. So I got like the second version of that, which is pretty good, because that's the other thing that kind of goes off the deep end real quick, is getting into Univibe stuff. Because there's a lot that are kind of cheap and they're not that great. They're okay. And then you get like into the big box units that are like, well, this is $1,000 and this one's $1,200. And you're like off into that world of exact replications. And I wasn't ready to dive into that yet, but I did hear that like the Dry Bell one is pretty amazing for being like a single pedal size. And
that's the Vibe machine?
yeah, it's, you know, basically, you know, optical Univibe. You know, it's Hendrix thing, basically. That's why everybody gets it, right? So, which it's really good, but I'm still getting into stacking it with fuzzes and things like that, which takes a little more tactfulness.
Yeah.
But on its own, it's amazing. So
I found with a lot of drive, I have either opted for like going way high and getting kind of nuts with it, or like just to where the water's barely moving. You know what I mean? Like where you're going like, I think there's a shark under the water. I can't really
just
tell.
Something.
It's a little too quiet, you know?
Right. And that's why I started putting my my phase in front of all my, you know, first in my pedal chain too.
Right.
You know, because you get a good amount of it, but it's like some things you put them after a fuzz and it just turns into like, you know, Space Odyssey chaos, and it's too much. So who knows? But that's my recent kind of dive into a newer effect that I haven't really messed with too much.
That's a good one.
Chris, have you played much around with Vibe?
Yeah, I have. I haven't gotten to go down the rabbit hole on that. I have mentioned last time I have one of these Line 6. It's the blue, the DM. I think it's the MM4. It's got a Univibe in it. It's not like one of the best Univibes, but it actually works pretty well on my chain. So I've just kind of used that because I can get trems and phasers or whatever else in it. Right. And then I have a full tone one that was pretty good. You know, I'm usually just trying to get something that's decent because like Johnny was saying, if you don't, and that's why I was writing down some of the recommendations he was making, like this vibe machine. Maybe I'll go check that out. I just went through a fuzz like purchasing bender, and it's just kind of like Johnny's phaser bender. So I wrote that one down too because I'm definitely a fan of.
Oh, it's your phaser bender now, Johnny. What are you working on the side here?
With a PH.
Yeah.
So yeah, man,
I
I
want
just
royalties.
And actually, yeah. So I just went down a fuzz. Maybe the Univibe's next. So we'll see. I'll start with the dry bell.
Yeah, nice.
Maybe we could make a fuzz with a PH.
I'm sure that's been done.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of play on PH something or others.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah.
The actually, who did that? Ren and Cuff, maybe.
Oh, that's maybe.
Did the fat fuck
Oh yeah.
Yep.
PH, something like that.
PH.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's 4 on the floor. We'll let that be.
I can dig it.
All right.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Again, it's always great to hear what you're digging into because you've got great taste in music and pedals and gear and stuff. And I'm saying that vicariously because I see pretty much all your posts. I'm not creeping. It's just that's the way it works.
He's creeping. Trust me, he's creeping.
I see all. I know all.
Well, we gotta dive into the juicy bits, man.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You have been a very busy person, as per usual. I think one of the things I do appreciate about you is that, and I was telling Chris, I said, Johnny's like super rock and roll, but he's also all business in the best way. In that you're trying to get the stuff done. You're making good stuff, and you're working hard to make sure everybody knows you're doing it. And I applaud that. That takes a lot of effort. It is exhausting doing that, and I think you do it really well.
It's an endless hustle.
Yeah.
But I always kind of hear like, someone that grew up with like really kind of crappy jobs and hard jobs and service industry jobs, I kind of always hear those footsteps. So I'm kind of like haunted a little bit that if I fail, I know what's waiting around the corner.
Right.
So it's like, this is the greatest job in the world. Why would I not try and make it as successful as I can? And obviously you love it and all that stuff, but yeah, it's definitely an unending thing. There's definitely like those 3 a.m. kind of like, oh crap, I forgot to do this or that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
As anybody that does an independent thing or artists or bands, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, speaking of those independent things, you've had a couple of great releases as of late. Let's talk about those.
Well, the funny thing is, last time I talked to you guys, I couldn't talk about the thing that I can talk about now. Which
I remember that.
Yeah,
it came out. I was like, "Hey!"
And Todd was very, very angry.
No,
very
angry.
Well, I mean, it was 2 solid years of me not being able to say anything to anybody while it was over 2 years of work to get this thing wrapped up. I'm talking about the Dunlop Daredevil Fuzz Wah, which came out June 1st. So that was one of those things where like, up to a certain point, I was still unsure if that was going to, you're paranoid that it's just going to fall apart or it's not going to come out or, it's such a big thing to try and bite off, that I, for the first half of that process, I was just kind of terrified that they'd be like, you know what, we changed our mind. Sorry. That,
right.
Being in a band or like, we just decided we're going to drop you guys. Sorry. Because that's definitely happened to me.
Yeah, dude. The vibe is super sick on the cosmetics. It's probably one of the best wahs they have as far as the way it looks. That switch on the side, the chrome, it's got that kind of Italian boxy thing.
They were, thank you. And they, to their credit, they were awesome at just saying, do your thing. Like Jimmy likes what you do, loves what you do that. Okay,
Jimmy
well, great.
says to do what you do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that was it. I was like, okay, awesome, because I already had it kind of in my head.
Right.
I'm like, we're going to do this, and then like I'll design this thing, and I'll get my artist to do this, and I just kept throwing pieces at them as they needed it. They're like, okay, we need the tread design, we need the plate, all the stuff. And so, I mean, the process was, although long, it was super smooth and there was no real hangups or anything. and everybody just dug it, and it turned out cool. I think I kind of got lucky in that I have a really good artist that I work with who can kind of take these ideas and just really hit it out of the park, you know?
Yeah. And this is the same artist you've been using, the tattoo artist?
Yeah. My buddy Casey Sass, who's a Detroit dude that was a Chicago dude for a long time when I knew him and played in bands with him and stuff. And then he moved to Austin. But he's been like the other, you know, the visual side of Daredevil for sure.
You know, it's funny that you say Detroit, because this thing to me in some ways is like screaming Detroit with the actual like gas pedal style rubber and you know, the car emblem style logo on the front with the Daredevil. It's you know, it fits the thing you do very well, which is, honestly, I think you've got one of the best aesthetic games in the business, man. It's
Thanks, dude.
Everything you make is like, damn, that looks cool. I don't know what it does, but it feels like I'm gonna be cool if I use this. I tried it. It worked.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the, you know, inspiration from, you know, pop art and just advertising art and retro things, and, you know, it's all kind of steeped in stuff from 50s, 60s, and 70s, you know, but also I think the reason it works is because it's just simple enough. You can see the name, you can see what it does. You know, it's just like, keep it easy for people to process, because there's a lot of pedals out there that, you know, I can't read what the knobs are. I don't know what the photo is. There's so much
Right.
in the artwork, and the artwork is cool, but the artwork is also, you know, 3.5 inches tall by 2 inches wide. And
That's tricky to pull off.
but I mean, also that's like really popular now. So what the hell do I know? You know, I mean, people love that stuff. And I think a lot of those pedals, the artwork's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know how they print a lot of this stuff. It looks so complex. So there's just different aesthetics, and I like the retro kind of simple, you know, auto inspired, and, you know, beer labels and signs you would see, you know, on buildings, and, you know, just old cool stuff that I come across, especially being in, you know, Chicago and Midwest, where there was so much of that, like, manufacturing in, you know, back in the day of, you know, Chicago was one of the biggest electronics manufacturers in the country, you know, and automobile stuff and the Rust Belt, and all those things were just of that era. And that probably just soaked into my brain from, you know, being alive through a lot of that.
Yeah.
Just thinking what's cool and easy to see what it is and what it's called. And,
so,
you know,
aside from the amazing aesthetics of this, it's a Fuzz Wah. Now,
right.
Walk us through what that is.
Yeah, and, you know, basically, I had been building these for like 5 or 6 years already by the time that I approached Dunlop.
Uh-huh.
And I was just doing them on the side. I would get old ones that were broken or whatever and gut them. And then I got my own, you know, PCBs design, and I would kind of tweak them as I went over the years and try different things, and, you know, just do them as like one-offs for buddies and stuff like that. So I had a lot of time to really kind of knock off the rough edges and hone the sound that I was going for. Right. So by the time that I actually kind of got the guts to just, you know, I mean, I took one to NAMM not knowing what I was going to do with it. This was January 2020. And I remember it being like, I don't know, Saturday or something. I was like, man, I think I'm just going to walk over there and just hand this to one of those dudes, you know, and just, who knows, right? He might just tell me, sorry, you know, but that's kind of like, I've always just had that attitude, like, well, you know, worst case scenario, you're back where you're at right now. So
if you don't try, you for sure won't get what you want.
Yeah. You know, so I was like, F it, you know? So I walked over there, and I knew who one guy was. So I just said, hey man, good to see you. And I just, you know, plopped it in his hand, and he kind of looked at me. He's like, what the hell is this? And I was all like trying to be cocky, you know? So I'm just like, you're going to put this out, dude, you know, like trying to be like lighthearted, fun about it. thinking he'd just be like, whatever, all right, I'll email you in a few weeks or something. And he's like, okay, stand right there. And then he turned around and like literally everybody that runs Dunlop was standing right there that I just didn't know who they were. And he grabbed like head of marketing, he grabbed Jimmy Dunlop, he grabbed like this guy. And all of a sudden I'm just standing there with like the 5 people that run the business at NAMM. I'm like, hi, you know? I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get eaten alive. Right. And they were all nice. And he's just like, look, obviously it's NAMM. Everything's insane. We need to go home and like, get over being sick and rest and all that. And I'll talk to you in a few weeks. And then, in a few weeks it was like, we're all going to die of COVID. So then that turned into like basically, 8 months of, I kind of assumed this was nothing. It was just going to dissipate and he'll mail it back to me and we'll be done with it. But, 3 years later, came together, we put it out, and, it was supposed to come out in last fall, almost a year ago. But, again, it was like coming off of COVID and supply issues and parts and manufacturing things. And it was just like all these things that I don't typically have to deal with, because I'm just like on such an independent level. I don't buy pots like in the tens of thousands, right?
Right.
So it's like this whole different level of sourcing things and waiting for things to come from overseas warehouses and, barges and all this shit that, it's like, okay, so that's how this works. It was kind of a big learning experience in just of, that world, like literally biggest, United States pedal company, one of the biggest companies in the world. So it was cool to kind of sit there and like, ride that wave and just see the inner workings of all that stuff. So
That's huge.
Now, did you build this from ground up, or did you start with a Dunlop Wah and then make modifications to the circuitry, or how?
So most of them were, everybody's got a broken Crybaby somewhere in their closet, right? It's just, it was pretty easy to find people that are like, oh, because they don't really try to fix them. It's just people aren't into that kind of stuff. They just throw it in the pile or whatever, or it starts acting funky and they just stop playing it. So, it's like if I needed 1 or 2 to mess with, I could just post something and people would be like, yeah, whatever, here's a box of some broken crap, right? So I would completely gut them. It would be just a shell, and I would throw everything brand new, and I tried making a bass version and all kinds of cool stuff. I would just experiment, and then sell them to buddies. But that, I don't know what was the original question, but it was mostly
if you started from scratch or
right. And I started modding all my. I used a Crybaby nonstop my previous band, so I started working on my own gear way before I was doing Daredevil or pedal building or any of that stuff. That was just me trying to make my stuff sound better on a budget while I was touring, So I was looking up mods and stuff on the internet, like, okay, so I need to make my wah louder so that when I turn it on for a solo, I don't have to hit a boost, Just little tweaky things like that is like really the first thing I ever did with any pedals ever was modding my own wahs. So it was pretty cool that, if I was that guy right now looking at where I'm at now, it would completely kind of melt my brain, because it just seems, it just seems like, oh, 13-year-old me or whatever, people say something like that. I couldn't even fathom that this would be where me tinkering with broken pedals would end up, whatever, odd years later. So, but yeah, it was cool. And they're cool guys. And like, how cool is it that I can talk to like George Trips and like, one of like the original OG pedal dudes from the 90s.
Right.
So just stuff like that. It's like if, everybody loves at least one MXR pedal, it's just, I always thought that was just like the coolest vintage kind of stuff, So to have a teeny footprint in what those guys do is amazing,
Yeah. Fantastic, man. Well, I know you've got 3 people here that are going to go watch and rewatch as many demos as possible. And I'm sure you're going to see a spike in people at least going like, what the hell does it do?
Yeah, well, it does what you would hope it would do, which is just completely annihilate wah and fuzz tones at the same time. And it's just, it's like everybody's tried, like it goes back to what we were saying earlier about like, some vintage pedals and they're like, oh, here's this vintage thing from the 60s. I'm selling it for $1,000.
Yeah.
And then you play it and it sounds like the caps are shot and it's noisy and the fuzz is really dumpy sounding, So that was kind of like part of the motivation. It's like, no, I want this to just sound like what people think it should sound like in their head, like super aggressive, loud, big, really articulate. The wah is really present. It's not muddy. It's like I want to give like the best case scenario of what this could be, because I tried old ones from the 60s and I tried new things. I mean, there's not even that many of them available, but the ones that I played, it was kind of like, it's all right, but usually it's never better than having an individual wah and your own favorite fuzz on your board.
Right.
You never get lucky enough to have them in the same package. So like that was the goal. I was like, you know what, I really want to just crush this thing and give you more than you think you need.
Love it. Perfect.
So that's that. And then that being said, there's a million videos and all that stuff. Super happy. But I also wanted to just touch on the other thing that I was able to pull off this year, which was another long, massive undertaking. But is that okay if I talk about the wedges that I got?
Johnny, it's your show, baby. Go ahead.
Yeah, dude. I've wanted to do some of the, especially the fuzzes, but some of the Daredevil line in like, vintage style, like wedge enclosures like you'd see from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And I was never able to really find them. Now there's some people making like vintage replicas of exact, tone benders and things like that. They're really expensive.
Yeah.
But
I love the enclosure that you have because it's not a giant, unwieldy wedge that's going to take up your entire board. It's built like a tank.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it's like a usable size. It's not some mega thing. But I mean, that was a year and a half in the works too, because they're dealing with Hammond Manufacturing, this giant company that also has supply issues and blah blah blah. But I had to like come up with the diagrams and all that stuff of this specific thing that I wanted. So I had to work with their engineers, and we got the diagram finalized and everything down to the decimal point, all that stuff. Because if you screw that up, then you just screwed up endless units that you had to purchase and all that. So but I got that done, and so I released the first pedal with that style folded aluminum closure on June 1st. Also, the 10-tone anniversary fuzz, which was supposed to come out a year prior, which would have been my 10th anniversary, but that took so long.
2020 really did a number on you.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody,
Well,
is just like, okay, sure, they said this will be done in 6 months. I'll be all set to release it in the fall, and then here we are, following spring.
Yeah.
So I did that, and here's kind of like the thing that I wanted to float out on the show, at least for you get some feedback from people listening.
Sure.
I think this would be cool, to, kind of transition some of the Daredevil stuff into, these wedges, because it just lends itself to more like 60s cool vibe, and it's not that much bigger of a footprint.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking like certain pedals, or at least what people might think would be
Northern
cool.
Creeper, do it.
Right. Originally, I did like 10 of those back in 2016 or 17 because I found a guy that made them briefly, and then he just vanished. But I would love to do like the Creeper. I would love to do Silver Solo.
Ooh, yeah. The art on that is so good too.
And I did a limited run of the Real Cool Fuzz with the Stooges Jaguar for that Chicago Music Exchange pedal.
Right,
show.
I remember that. Yeah.
So they might still have some, but I think there was only like 20. They got their hands on a bunch, and then I sold a couple before they were even available to some artists. So I could always do some more of those, but ultimately I just want to see what people would dig in that. Obviously the ones with more knobs and stuff would be tougher. But like the retro vibe type stuff, like you said, like the Creeper,
Yeah.
I think that would be just total knockout with those enclosures, you know, and it would just make it stand out from, you know, majority of the more like typical pedal enclosure.
If you do
size
that,
stuff.
I want serial number 001. I'll pay you as soon as we get off the phone.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I never have 001 because everybody always wants it. So I end up with like number 54 or something. It was like, I don't care.
That's the
whatever.
magic number. Okay. All right. Now I got it.
I always just throw my hands in the air. I'm like, fine, whatever. Whenever I do things like that, I'm like, well, I'd probably want the ones later down the line anyways, because they get all the bugs worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of on the radar for later this year.
Well, I think you got 3 very, very emphatic hands up. Yes to that enclosure style. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, appreciate it. Thanks.
Johnny, I had a quick question for you.
Yeah.
I was looking at a lot of these demos, and I'm actually really excited about this 10-tone fuzz. Seems like a lot of fuzz faces, a lot of fuzzes are really picky about pickups and like single coils. At least the ones that I've played seem to like single coils. Just a little bit more, or maybe like a low output humbucker. It seems like you're rocking humbuckers to these pedals, and they sound tight. Like I don't notice some of the inherent problems with some of the other fuzz face style pedals or tone bender style pedals. Is there something that you've done to allow you to play Les Pauls and SGs through fuzzes and keep them that sounding like that?
Well, I mean, that's the goal, you know, and it's not a fuzz face schematic, you know, although it's 2 transistors. But yeah, I mean, that's always the goal, because it's like I'm making this stuff so that I can slap it on my board and play it in my band and be like, this is my ideal number 1 go-to fuzz pedal, which that is now. That's what I've been using since I put it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like, this needs to work with humbuckers. It needs to work with Filtertrons and P90s and single coils. And that one did it, you know, and that's like, as I get older and hopefully better at doing this stuff, it's like I can get more nitpicky and kind of solve my own problems with stuff like that. Because that stuff drives me nuts, you know? And I think that's what I really dislike about a lot of pedals that are like classics, but I just can't use them because there's things that, you know, I lose in translation and stuff. You can get away with it recording or something, but like, you know, live when you have your rig, there's just certain things.
Playing's different now too. I mean, those things were all built when you're like just
Playing clean amps.
Huge rigs at clean amps at like massive volumes.
Yeah, and a Fender Twin, like any fuzz you slam into it is going to sound pretty damn good.
Yeah.
You know, and you're using low output pickups and, you know, like, yeah, that era. But yeah, I mean, that's just it. It's like, all right, how can I be cocky enough to put out a 1-knob fuzz, but keep it sounding articulate and not just turn into this big muddy, you know, a lot of guys clone like the 1-knob fuzz and the damn meathead and those, and they all just kind of have this fuzz face, blown out low end thing, which is cool for certain kinds of music and stuff. But it's like, no, I need to solo with this and have it. I want to hear every single little crackle and raspy noise that I can out of this pedal. Awesome. And that's, you know, the stuff that makes me insane and lay awake at 4 a.m. going, you know, like, and why something that should take me a month takes me, you know, 3 or 4 months. I mean, I've probably designed 5 or 6 circuits for this anniversary pedal, and some of them had 3 knobs, some of them had 2 knobs. I mean, I literally kind of went way too far overboard trying to chase this like ideal, you know, it's like, okay, here, make your perfect fuzz.
Right.
You know, like how daunting of a task is that, right? To anybody,
yeah.
You know? And so you know, I didn't want to just rush something out, but at the same time, it was a lot of time, and I would have to take a break and come back and just really push myself to try and nail something, you know?
Well, I think you did a smashing job on it, man. And I like the idea that you've considered all these things. You just didn't say, hey, here's a cool sounding thing.
Yeah, but, you know, I don't want to have like 10 fuzzes in my line either, you know? It's like, I don't want to just be like fuzz guy. You know, I want to have like, okay, I got one distortion. That's my favorite. I got one boost. That's my favorite boost. I got a one knob fuzz. I got a 60s fuzz. I got a 70s fuzz. You know, I don't have any clones. I really want to keep it like, this is the best of this flavor. Right. And that's kind of where I'm trying to keep it, because I don't want to just have people be like overwhelmed at the amount of stuff. And it's like, well, this is kind of like this, but not total, you know, like, no. It's like, okay, here, I'm going to do a delay. This is the delay.
You don't lack focus.
Well, you know, and it's like, if something's better than something else that I did in the past, guess what, man? Bye-bye.
Yeah.
You know, the almighty bass is going away because I designed that way early on, you know, and I didn't even necessarily know what I was doing with bass stuff as far as like EQ and things like that. So it's like, all right, I can do way better than that. So that pedal is going away, and I want to do something that's got a couple other features and really can pull off some, you know, what I wanted to do back then, but just wasn't necessarily capable of. So,
nice.
You know, just improve on things, keep it streamlined, keep it easy for people to know what your line is. You know, it's like, here's my FET boost. It's a hype boost. You plug it into anything and it's going to be loud.
That's a great segue.
Yes. Speaking of one knob
or no
pedals, let's talk about no knob pedals.
Yes. Got no knobs. Got no knobs.
Could you at least put one on there? Maybe glue one on.
I think the eunuch was a working title.
The eunuch. Oh my God, that's great.
Yes, Todd.
Hey, gold's just dropping out of our pockets.
Yes,
you're welcome to pick it up.
Yeah, get the snow shovel. It's definitely there.
So we picked up the hype because you know what? I figured this is something that I want to get in the hands of one of our patrons. So we will be giving away this Daredevil hype pedal.
Oh, cool.
Johnny, why don't you give us a quick rundown as we round third and head home?
Rundown of the hype pedal. I don't know. Do you want like a witty one-liner? Or do you want it just a
I dare not interfere with how you want to represent it.
Yeah. No, you know, it's everybody likes clean boosts and all that stuff. I don't like what everybody likes. I wanted a really loud, gnarly one, and I built myself every kind of boost out there for my own band. And a lot of them kind of did it, but kind of didn't do it. And then I got to this circuit and tweaked it, and I said, okay, well, this is kind of firing on all cylinders, so that's it. And, you know, the deal with anything in that realm of like a boost, I literally like the idea of like Eddie Van Halen's board or something where things are just like taped, you know, and it's like literally just a switch that I hit and it makes it more, you know, it's like the one last push over the cliff button, you know. And that's it. So it's just like, I don't want any knobs to bump. I don't want to have to worry about how far it's set. I literally just want the thing that's easy to stomp on that makes it louder, you know? So, I mean, that was it. It was just like, literally how simple can I do this and just have it still completely annihilate? And, you know, I was very angry at the time. I don't know if you saw my new hype video that I posted last week.
That's why I got this, man. I was like, yes, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm getting on this right now.
I was very frustrated at the time, and it was COVID and all that stuff. And I was just like, I'm just going to do this totally backwards, just out of sheer frustration, and we'll see what happens, you know? But yeah, it's like, it's dialed in. You can't really go wrong, you know?
Yeah.
If you want some cork sniffy thing, this is probably not the beautiful, transparent, whatever the hell kind of thing you are looking for. And that's great because I don't do stuff like that.
There's plenty of that out there. And
exactly.
You do never fear in the event that you feel like Johnny, for whatever reason, didn't get it just exactly right for you. There is a trim pot inside that you can dial up that boost, or the what is the factor that you can dial in on the trim pot?
I mean, it does. You can kind of get it quieter, but it's pretty much just like loud and louder, you know?
Yeah.
So I set it at like 1 o'clock, but it's a linear pot. So pretty much anything beyond that, it's like, it's like turning on a Marshall Plexi. Like you hit 1.5 and it's deafening. And then it's just kind of like equal parts deafening up to 10. Right.
Right.
So, that's kind of where you're at. You're not going to get
with
to like,
Handsome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, well, thanks for grabbing one, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited to get this to one of our patrons. So be looking for that after I play with it just a little bit, guys. It'll be a lightly loved brand new pedal.
Slightly, almost, damn near new.
Yes.
So, Johnny, do you have any plans to do any other artist models? I know that you did one for Earl Slick and one for Ron Ashton from the Stooges.
It's funny you ask because I'm kind of working on one now, but I can't, obviously I can't tell you what it is.
This is just a way to get back on the show. I see what you're doing.
This is his MO. This is exactly what he did last time.
No, it's it does sound like a pretty awesome master plan, right? I'm just gonna dangle that carrot every show. No, it's there's something I'm working on, and anytime you deal with an artist, you got to kind of you're at the mercy of their busy schedule and whatever, managers and stuff like that. So, I have a pedal that's done and they're checking it out, and
cool.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, that is good to go. I can't imagine why it wouldn't be, but I'm crazy excited about it.
It's me. I'm approving it. It's fine. Sorry. I'll just let you off the hook, Johnny.
Yeah, believe me, we'll have to schedule.
Good, man.
we'll schedule my next show for like the day after it gets released.
I love it. We're up for it.
So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, that's
always
that's
good
it,
things
man.
coming out of the Daredevil shop. And ladies and gentlemen, if you aren't convinced by now, the whole backlog of everything that we haven't talked about is so worth your time and playing, and you know what? If you decide to get a Daredevil pedal and you say like, I want to get one of these Daredevil pedals, do Johnny a favor and get it from Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's great. I'll sign it, man. I'll tell you things you need to know, whatever you want, man. That's one of my things. I really want people to be like super happy with stuff. I remember what it was like to be a kid and have no money, and I save up and get one pedal, and it was just the most important thing ever, except, I wasn't buying it from a boutique builder. I was buying it from like Boss or something.
Yeah.
So it seems like I really love that opportunity that people can like email me. I can help them out and say, check this out. And then they get, what they need, and that they love it and it works and everybody's happy. And like that, I love the idea of someone like plugging into something I made and just being inspired and being like, oh my God, this is awesome. And now I want to write songs and play music and
love it. Love it.
Yeah. So if people have questions and all that stuff, it's like pretty easily reachable, man. You know, it's not some faceless brand. It's not something that's manufactured in a warehouse somewhere. It's like, no, it's as boutique as it gets, man. So I'm a real guy. I design stuff, and you can email me and all that good stuff. So
indeed. And that's a perfect segue into Tony.
Todd, at this point of the show, there's a little segment that we love to have and we love to play. It's called Would You Rather?
Yeah. You haven't found your legs yet. Go ahead.
Where are my legs?
Yes.
Captain Dan. Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah. Well, you're hot tonight, baby. Hit it. Johnny's got things to do.
Hey, and by the way, that was in 2018 was the first time he was on.
That's what I said.
I know you were.
All right.
I know you said.
See?
Right. This week's Would You Rather, we're going to bring back the time machine.
Okay.
Why? Couple of reasons.
Okay.
First of all, in case we never told you this before, by going in the time machine, not only do you gain the ability to play certain instruments
Yes.
flawlessly,
Okay.
but you also are able to absorb the entire artist catalog of the people that
You had me at absorb.
absorb. So this week's Would You Rather Time Machine Travel, we're going to set it back to 2000.
All right.
We're going to go back to Southern California.
Okay.
Now, in this case, there are two bands playing. Those bands would be Primus
Oh.
and Motorhead.
Okay.
Now, sadly, and coincidentally, both Les Claypool from Primus has broken his arm and is in a cast, and he can't possibly play bass.
Oh boy.
And Lemmy did the same damn thing.
Wow.
So, but the good news is they're able to sing.
That actually happened to my aunt and my cousin within 30 seconds of each other on an ice rink. I swear, I'm not even making that up.
Oh, man.
It's true story in Minnesota. Go ahead.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. You show up, but the caveat is you can only play upright bass.
What the hell is this?
It's an upright bass.
No,
You know what that is?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Now, you have to play it in either Primus, filling in for Les Claypool, or you can play it in Motorhead, filling in for Lemmy.
Oh, okay. That's as easy.
Yeah, I think we'll see.
Okay.
But also remember, from the time machine, you're able to absorb the entire catalog of the artist, as well as the ability to play flawlessly.
Yes. Okay.
So would you rather play upright bass with Motorhead
Uh-huh.
or upright bass?
But you're flawless playing. That's what you're saying.
You're flawless.
Okay.
You're flawless.
So I don't have to worry about my
You're flawless.
flawlessness. Okay.
Just like normal.
Sounds good.
Just
All
like
right.
normal.
That may
Todd.
have changed my answer. All right. Got it.
Okay.
Tony, go ahead, and then we're going to go to Johnny.
Well, as much as I'd
I mean,
like
Chris, sorry. Then to Johnny.
Well, now you've got me all mixed up. As much as I'd like to play flawlessly with Motorhead, I think it would be a lot more fun to play with Primus
Okay.
because it's challenging. It's weird stuff. And
Yeah.
here's a little tidbit that I left off. This is great. I just stumbled on it. So Les Claypool
Yes.
was invited to try out for
Metallica.
Metallica after Cliff Burton died
Yeah.
in 1986. And this is how he goes into the audition and asks the guys if they wanted to jam to some Isley Brothers tunes.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that part.
Needless to say,
Yeah.
he didn't get the gig.
Right.
So I'm gonna fill in on bass, upright bass,
Right.
with Primus.
Okay.
That's
Sounds
me.
good.
I'm going to rock with Motorhead. I get to jam with
Ah.
Fast Eddie Clark, and I get to hear what an upright bass sounds like going through Lemmy's Marshall. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I can dig that.
I'm guessing there would be a fair amount of feedback.
Yeah. Johnny?
I mean, Motorhead, that's a no-brainer. And a lot of those tempos are like almost rockabilly tempos anyways. I think those songs would totally shape up awesome.
Oh yeah, you could do
Like
some slapping.
Dude, some slappity, upright, clackety, like rockabilly bass, dude. All
Yeah.
those tunes are almost the same tempo as rockabilly stuff. I mean, it's all people on speed, right?
Yeah.
So it's just hillbillies on speed as opposed to like giant dudes from England. So
There you go.
I think Motorhead is rockabilly, and he loved that stuff anyway. So I'm sure it would be a flawless transition. Lemmy would approve, and it would sound great. So
Yeah. I'm gonna go see. It was weird because at first I thought Primus, because I actually was really big into Primus when they were like hot. And obviously they're outstanding and it was super fun music. However, I like the idea of actually playing the bass sideways in Motorhead.
Sideways.
Yes. None of the stand up. Take the stand up, lay it on its side. Give me the heaviest gauge pick I can find, and just go.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
All right.
Yeah. Do a little stand up on the Billy action, rock it back and forth like that. Like I pick up what Johnny was laying down there.
All right.
But yeah, I think that'd be pretty dang sweet with a Daredevil Fuzz Wah on it.
Absolutely.
Right?
There you go.
And a hype pedal for when you have to do bass solos.
Yes. Tony.
That's right, Todd.
We got some people to thank.
That is so
It's
right.
your turn to thank some people.
Well, I'm thanking on behalf of all of the knobs here. So at this point of the show, there's a special group of people we love to thank. These are our executive producers. Now, you might be wondering what an executive producer does. Well, an executive producer makes this show possible. How do you become one? Well, it's very easy. You head over to patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Check out a couple different levels in which you can participate. Become a patron, a sponsor, a hero of the podcast.
That's true.
Each level comes with some very, very, very nice thank you gifts and opportunities to get wonderful giveaways. Oh, the giveaways. Oh, it makes my head spin sometimes.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to get as many more as I can.
Absolutely.
And by the way, if you're a builder and you want to get some gear into people's hands, big or small, doesn't matter. Let us know. We love putting our guests and builders' gear into the hands of the people that support the community and love this show.
Wow. Well said, Todd.
Thank you.
But you know, Todd,
I do.
how is he?
Very well.
Yeah, that's nice to know.
Yes. Tolerating.
As an executive producer, in addition to all the great stuff, there's one thing more. Jared, what is that?
You get to have your name read on the thing.
I didn't even know Jared was with us today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. So anyhow, that's right. You get your name read on the thing, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers: Vader Pedals, John Halverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, Elad Mizrahi, Mike D., Richard Kendall, James White, Justin Jones, Anthony Gemolero, Bill Gola Guitars, John Esterly, Anthony Lathrop, Stefan Lamb, Michael Senchuk, Ken Sayers, Doug Christ, Darren Gregory, Tom Barazin, Rusty Sneeden, Ralph Gottschalk, Don Kloss, Gregory Randall, Brett Hogarth, Eric Hemmer, Stuart George, Michael Furman, James Bell, James Romer, Cameron Pampas, David Tyndall, Trevor Ellenberg, and Christopher Logan.
I like it.
Yes, but Todd, you know, there's one thing more.
What is that?
There's a special group of executive producers. These are our grand poobahs. These are the top of the heap, the cream of the crop, the
King of the Hill.
kings of the hill, because there's more than one.
Sure.
So special thanks to these grand poobahs.
This needs a little something more, I think.
Tommy Manasco, Ricardo Iguereda, David Kaminga, Brandon Juan Pickups, Hex Matos, Michio Murakishi, Bob Crouch, Jack Cadian, Sam Jett, Tyler Rhines, Ellis J, Music Company, John Williams, James Pennington, Steve Keys, Cody Foster, Science of Sound, Brian Robinson, Jonathan Jerusik, Corey Nigro, Michael Van Zant, Tim Nowak, Jonathan Daly, Martin Cliff, Sean S., David Poe, Billy Spitfire Unlimited, Congregation Gear Demos, Paul Van Eppinger, Scott Sullivan, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups, Matt Hart, Enrico Fernando, and an upgrade this week, Moon Guitars is now a grand poobah. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
We beat the crap out of these pens. We just went through like 6 pens. Oh, that was fun. Don't expect that ever again.
No.
Anyways.
First and last time.
I'm sweating. I'm sweating. All right. You guys, we really appreciate you so very much. If you are thinking of being on that list, doggone it, just do it. It'll help us out. You'll feel good.
Yeah.
And and at some point in time, you're going to get stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
We make that happen. All right. Johnny from Daredevil Pedals, we want to thank you so much for being on the show today, man.
Dude, thanks for having me. I love talking to you guys, and I'm sure we'll have 17 or 18 more episodes before it's all all said and done.
I hope so. We love having you on the show. Where can people go to get your awesome pedals?
DaredevilPedals.com. It's on Reverb, Guitar Center, all that. I mean, it's all over, man. You can get it in Europe. I have a distributor in Europe, so
that's good because we have a lot of people in Europe.
Yep.
Yeah, UK, Guitar. There's a lot of places.
Awesome. And dive into Johnny's Instagram, especially. He does a great job of running the pedals down, and he's a builder and he demos them. So that's the other cool part. You get to see how they're intended to be played, as I guess you could say. All right. Thanks, Johnny. And Tony, where can people get your stuff?
Head over to pickguardian.com. Check out the things that I have available online. But, by and large, what I do is custom work.
Yes.
So
that's a catchphrase of yours.
Yes, custom. Custom pickguards.
Indeed. If you want to make that guitar, if you want to make your guitar even more yours.
Yeah. Shoot me an email. Let me know what you need.
Get a custom pickguard.
What you're trying to do. What material you're looking for. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do my best to help you out.
Indeed. Chris?
Yep, Plexi335 over on YouTube. Just subscribe, check out some vids.
Yeah, really good videos.
Nice.
Really good videos. I think I would actually love it if you started doing like proper demos of like pedals and stuff, man. You got good sounds coming out of there. You're a great player. Like, do it. There.
I'm in.
Run off. RUNNOFT and go do that.
Do it, man.
All right. You can shoot me an email, Todd at theguitarknobs.com. And better yet, if you want to send me a D-mail.
Send him
That's
a
what
D-mail.
it should be called. A DM on Instagram. Do that. Send us your thoughts, your questions, everything you hate. Throw rocks at me. Do whatever. We would love to hear from you. And also, please check out the Valentinos on Spotify and Apple and anywhere you get all that stuff. We will have just released our fourth single, which will ultimately be culminated into an upcoming EP in the following month. But please go check that out. Please give us a listen. I would really love it if you did, and I would love to hear what you think about it. Also, if you've got an HX Stomp or other similar kind of unit, you need to protect your knobs. Go over to flinteffects.com and get a stomper for your HX Stomp. It's $10. It's going to protect those knobs that if you break that, you're screwed. That's the end of the story. That's an expensive boo-boo. So protect your boo-boos of your knobs. Boo-boo. Protect the boo-boos on your knobs. Anyways, with that, we should probably get out of here.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening. Have a fantastic guitar weekend. Subscribe! Well played.
Some great tones coming off the table tonight.
I know, right? There's all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm like, I got a whole racket. I will make sure that happens. Tony's giving me the face like, when has that ever happened?
Well,
okay, that's a pass.
Let's redo that one.
All right, hang on.
I don't want to sound like a total idiot.
Yeah, all right, fine.
And don't put that in the takeouts either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know where that's going to go.
Don't move.
I'll lay perfectly still. Yeah.
Tony, do you have to take a dump or something? No?
I just did.
Okay, you do. Okay, great. Perfect. And away we go.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.